Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. I'm so glad you're joining us for this explainer today, because we're tackling something absolutely crucial, the architectural master plan for dApp development. Our focus, consolidating integrations and Capstone readiness. Essentially, we're going to take all those individual Web3 pieces you've been working with and finally snap them together into a beautiful, production-ready machine.
So let's kick things off with a scenario that honestly strikes fear into the heart of pretty much every developer. What happens if your user hits refresh right in the middle of a Web3 transaction? You know the exact moment I'm talking about. They've just clicked buy NFT, their wallet pops up, they're sweating a bit over the gas fee, and then boom, they accidentally hit a 5. Sheer panic, right? Well, if your app isn't built on a rock-solid scaffold, that single refresh can literally lead to lost transactions, completely broken states, and a very unhappy user. To make sure that never, ever happens to you, here's our master schematic for today. We'll start with the blueprint for success, move on to context and rehydration, look at our integration primitives, talk about taming edge cases, and finally get you ready for the capstone. All right, let's jump straight into section 1, the blueprint for success. This is all about transitioning from isolated tests to a cohesive dApp scaffold. You'll remember that in our previous lesson on analyzing results and bottlenecks, we were basically just testing our raw materials, figuring out where things might slow down. But now our ultimate goal is end-to-end flow composition without any critical bugs. We're talking about stitching together authentication, transaction building, signing, and confirmation into one unified pipeline. No more duct tape, you guys. No more just hoping for the best. We want a totally seamless flow from the moment the user connects their wallet to the exact second that ERC 1155 token lands safely in their account. Moving right along to section 2, context and rehydration, or as I like to think of it, how to keep the power on during a page reload. So to actually keep that power on, we absolutely have to preserve the user's signer context across a session. And that brings us to rehydration. Rehydration is just the process of reading a cached reconnect token, like something stored in local storage, when the app starts, so it can seamlessly reestablish a provider connection without bugging the user with another prompt. Think of it exactly like a backup generator. When the power flickers because the user reloads the page, that generator kicks in instantly. The user doesn't even notice the lights went out, and they definitely don't have to log back in to their wallet all over again. If you don't have rehydration built in, you're stuck with the really frustrating amnesia of a poorly built dApp. We're talking silent failures and those endless annoying wallet prompts. Every time the user blinks, the app basically forgets who they are. But with rehydration, we get graceful recovery and super clear reconnect paths. It creates this smooth, state-preserving experience that actually feels like professional-grade software. Okay, that brings us to section 3, integration primitives. These are the 4 main pillars of our dApp plumbing. Now, in the development programs at Forge College, we put a massive emphasis on separating your user interface from your underlying logic, and you achieve that by using 4 modular functions that should live completely independently, usually tucked away in a folder called src/integration. First up, the connect function. It takes no input, returns a promise, and crucially, it persists that reconnect token we just talked about. Second is buildTransaction. You feed it a parameters object, it hands back a transaction object, and it validates your ERC 1155 field synchronously. Third, signAndSend. It takes that transaction object, returns a promise, and normalizes the error shapes, which is huge for keeping the UI clean. And fourth, watchConfirmation. You toss it a transaction hash, it returns a promise, and it supports progress callbacks, so your UI always knows exactly what's pending. It helps to think of this whole sequence like an assembly line. Raw materials come in at step 1, connect and rehydrate. They get shaped into a mold at step 2, buildTransaction. Then they get stamped and shipped at step 3, signAndSend. And finally, we track the delivery at step 4, watchConfirmation. By the end of this line, you've got yourself a finished product, a fully confirmed ERC 1155 transaction. Now, separating your UI ensures these primitives are highly reusable. You want to keep the heavy lifting over an src/integration and the buttons and text over an src/UI. Because you're keeping the plumbing totally separate from the paint, you can actually port these exact, battle-tested functions straight into your final capstone project without rewriting a single line of logic. It's a real game changer. All right, let's shift gears to section 4, taming edge cases. It's time to stress test our structure against transaction earthquakes. You know, It's all fine and dandy when everything works perfectly on a local testnet, but what happens out in the wild when a multi-step operation fails right in the middle? Well, one of the most common headaches you'll face is a nonce collision. A nonce collision happens when two transactions attempt to use the exact same sequence number. It's basically akin to two people trying to aggressively squeeze through a single revolving door at the exact same time. Neither one gets through, the whole thing jams up, and suddenly you've got a massive blockage in your entire application flow.
You really have to recognize the difference between the happy path and the Wild West. The happy path is beautiful, right? It goes ready to sign, then broadcasting, then confirmed. Simple. But the reality of the public blockchain is absolutely the Wild West. You're constantly dealing with dropped networks, transactions getting replaced because of higher gas prices, unexpected user rejections, and those tricky partial batch failures where one mint succeeds but the very next one fails.
To survive that Wild West, your scaffold needs some serious architectural safeguards. We call these edge case recovery actions. First, you must surface clear error codes so the UI actually knows what went wrong. Second, you have to provide a deterministic retry path. Basically, if it fails, give the user a clear button to safely try again. Third, you need to offer rollback guidance for partial failures, so people aren't left stranded with half an operation completed. And lastly, you must validate inputs synchronously before signing just to catch bad data early on. Setting this up guides your user toward a safe recovery path, instead of just throwing a terrifying unhandled exception on their screen.
Okay, let's dive into our final section today. Ready for the capstone. This is where we hand over the keys to the skyscraper. This is the moment we verify that our scaffold is fully operational and totally bug-free. To pass this milestone, you've got to meet 4 specific acceptance criteria. First, wallet connection and rehydration have to work seamlessly. Like if I hit refresh, I need to stay connected. Second, those 4 core primitives must be modular and documented. I should be able to just copy-paste them. Third, edge cases have to trigger appropriate UI states. If I reject a signature, the app shouldn't just crash. It needs to tell me the signature was rejected. And fourth, routine actions like single mints, transfers, and batched operations must complete without any blocking bugs.
Ultimately, making those choices is the difference between a flimsy prototype and a production-ready scaffold. Because look, anticipating errors, preserving context, structuring your code modularly, anyone can build a toy dApp that works once on a local network. But engineering these robust, deterministic recovery paths, that's what elevates your work to professional-grade engineering. So, I'm going to leave you with this question to ponder before our next listen. Is your foundation strong enough to hold the weight of a multi-token economy? Because next time, in designing the multi-token platform architecture, we're going to challenge you to bring this very scaffold to the next level and build something truly massive on top of it.
And that wraps up our blueprint. You've got the schematics, you have the logic, and you are officially ready to build a truly resilient Web3 application. I really hope you found this explainer helpful and that it sparked some great ideas for your own code. If you want to dive deeper into this subject, check out more amazing courses, and continue building your Web3 expertise, absolutely head over and visit forge.college. Keep learning, keep building, and I will see you in the next explainer.